to open my heart. And when I got to rabbinical school, I had a bit of a crisis when I felt kind of overwhelmed by the volume of text of everything that needed to that I needed to enter into. And it's my way to take a little bit at a time and go deep. And that's really when I was faced with that, avalanche of texts that were about to overwhelm me and sort of keep me on the surface of life, I made a commitment to my own tradition that said, I'm going to take a little piece at a time, and I'm going to explore it in the way that I know best, which is everything that I've learned through being a musician, which is that music is not just something that is decorative, but it is essential, it is core, and it is what makes meaning happen in all four worlds, all in the physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. It ties everything together. And so at the very beginning of rabbinical school, I made that commitment, and I began exploring one phrase at a time, and using what I know to unlock the meaning and the power and the magic of the texts that I have inherited. And I'm never going to run out of texts, because the prayer book is so fat, and every day a different text kind of pops out and says, "Chant me." And what I found is there is this word that I learned as a kid when I was watching cartoons, that is abracadabra. And was sort of a magic word. I realized, so when I learned that the word abracadabra is Aramaic for "I will create as I say," I realized that that in singing, not only am I saying, but I'm doing the abracadabra process. When I say a word, I'm not just talking about something. I am invoking it, and I needed to really bring my whole self to that process of invocation of meaning. So what I wanted to do in this hour that we have is to do some abracadabra work to, as musicians, to bring what we know to the text, to bring it alive, and not just alive, but let it those words be embodied and do their work of transformation within us. So I wanted to give just some examples of that, and I guess you all have this handout that I sent, that just listed a few of practices that we might use to demonstrate some of the abracadabra of chant. And what I find is words that I may have said all of my life suddenly are transformed into not just words, but tools of inquiry and awakening. So, shall we enter in? And let me know if there's a question or something that you want to stop me, and we can, we can talk, right? So I picked the first chant that I picked. I picked it because I thought maybe a lot of people in the Reform movement already know this chant, And I wanted to give the story about how it emerged for me and how I use it, not as a song, but as a practice. And the words Zozi, v'zimaratia, vayihili lishua. And I created this practice when I was actually teaching at a festival in Israel, and it was the Tu B'Shvat festival, and we were in the Parshat B'Shalach. And when I looked at this phrase, I realized that it was a formula. So there's a way that, as a chanter, I look at a text and I try to find the key phrase of that text that, in a way, holds the whole spirit and energy of the whole text. So kind of just in a few words. And in the Song of the Sea, which is so ancient, I found what looked to me to be a formula for how to walk in to the wilderness of my life. And I began to use it in that way. So when it says the word Zozi, my strength, I think of that as not only my strength, but all of the place in me that wants to make things happen, the place of effort, of will. And when I chant that word, I am not talking about my strength, I am calling it up. And so
Daddy's coming, hold on.
So I would sing, Zozi. But as I'm doing that, I'm finding my strength. I'm finding where it comes from. I'm finding my will to make things happen. And so I say, Zozi. And the next word's v'zimaratia. There's lots of different ways that that's translated, but what I like to think of it as the song of God that is singing me. And there's another aspect of my being that is the place of surrender in me, that the place of allowing and flow, the place of me that knows that I'm not the one who actually making things happen. It's God who is making it all happen, and I need to get out of the way and let God sing through me. And so so after I've called up my strength, and then I shift my whole being and feel that, there's some other capacity in me to surrender that I also need to call up. And so I sing in a very different tone of voice. I sing, Visimaradia. And I get out of the way and I allow this song to pour through me. And so then I'm there I am faced with two very different aspects of my being that I have called up. And I want to hold them both in the right balance. And so the practice of this chant is finding that balance. And every day that there's a different balance that is being called, because some days I really need more of my strength and my will available, and other days I need to really get out of the way. I need to open. I need to allow that flow through me. And so I'm finding what that balance is, and I try to bring into my voice both of those qualities. And that word, Yeshua, my salvation, I'm never exactly sure what it means, but I experience it. And I experience it when I bring these two qualities together. So that's that when I find both of those qualities in me, then I come into a covenantal relationship with God, because God wants my strength and I need God's song to pour through me. And as partners, we walk into the wilderness. And so, so the practice, when I do this practice, it's about a few different things. One is calling up those qualities within me. Another is about finding what is the balance or integration of those qualities in me. And another is a kind of a process of inquiry where I see what is needed today, or maybe I don't have the fullness of my strength today, or maybe I am sort of shut down in the, in that quality of surrender. So, and so it's a diagnostic, it becomes a diagnostic tool to chant this chant, because it shows me where I am today. So the idea of having a spiritual practice like this that undergirds our leadership is that when we have explored that phrase for ourselves, it gets charged up. It gets sort of filled with power and potential and meaning. And then when we bring it to others, we are living inside that phrase. And so I thought we would do this practice together, except you will be muted because we can't all chant at the same time on the Zoom. And then do a little practice afterwards, just to notice, how it becomes an inquiry into where we are today. And that sound good? We'll just do it for a few minutes, and I want to ask you is to work with your tone of voice, so that you are calling forth, you are invoking those qualities within you. So when you say, "Oh, Z, really find where is your strength located? How do I call it forth through my voice?" And when you say V'zimaratiya, see what that feels like, to just allow the flow through you. And when you say Vayihi Lili Shua, see if you can bring them together and feel what is the integration of those two qualities within me. Zozi. So at the end of a chant, I invite you to keep your eyes closed for a moment. Just imagine just breathing into the heart, feeling the medicine or the power of this practice. And then I invite you to just to hold up your right hand and imagine in your right hand all of your will and power and making things happen, all that quality that you have, all of the effort you exert. Hold that in your right hand. And then you put that hand aside and you feel in your left hand, raise your left hand and feel in your left hand this other quality of surrender and openness and flow. Just feel that quality in your left hand. And now hold both of your hands together, that will in your right hand and the surrender in your left hand. See if you can hold both of those qualities at once. And very slowly bring your hands towards each other. And allow them to meet, to touch. Feel what is it like to the marriage of will and surrender, of effort and flow. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Just notice what that feels like, and in a sense, that's the energy that we want to bring into the wilderness. We want to have access to those qualities, and I love doing that. How did that feel to you? And maybe taking a chant that you probably know, but really turning it into a practice. And what it means to have a practice is that each time you do it, it gets a little clearer and stronger, and you're always kind of building it. So we can stop if you have any comments or questions. I'm not sure how this works exactly, but if you want to unmute yourself if you have anything. Was there any? I'm having trouble sort of seeing how. So Ellen had a question. Did you want to just unmute Ellen and ask the question?
I'm just wondering, when you're speaking to people, how you articulate the difference or perceive the difference between chanting and singing.
Thank you. Yeah. There's a way that when I'm doing a chant, it has an inner component to it, and there's a sense that I'm going to be a different person at the end of the chant than I was in the beginning, and it's very much tied up with knowing what is the power of this, and where am I going with it, and from when I do a chant, if I've done it before, I have kind of gotten a taste of what that is, so I'm aiming myself towards that place. But the inner component is really important, is that I'm expecting some kind of a transformation in me when I do a chant. And I am trying to use everything I can to unlock what the medicine is or what the power of these words are. And, it becomes for me a lifestyle. I mean, which is different than lifestyle. As there's this quality of awareness and a quality of inquiry that in the silence after the chant, I'm asking these questions of like, oh, what is this? How do I feel different than I did at the beginning of the chant? And when I notice what that medicine is, I put it in my medicine bag. I put it in, my memory bank. And then I know that I can call on that whenever I need it. So if I'm in a place in my life of imbalance, I might want to choose this practice to find that balance again. And so each sacred phrase that, and I've made hundreds of these, each one has its own particular quality of what it calls forth in me, and it's a quality that I need in my life. And so it's a practice. And yeah, does that pretty much give a hint of it? I could probably talk about this for the whole hour of how it's different. The other thing is, a song, I wouldn't repeat a song as many times as I would repeat a chant, because it's about repetition, and it is about every time I repeat the chant, I'm asking inside me, what more do I have to give to this chant? What more can I give? And I'm pouring myself into these words, and it's a meditation of focus. I'm focusing on these words and allowing them to do their work inside me. Yeah. Lori? Can you unmute? There's on the left-hand bottom of the screen. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question. All of a sudden the sound just went out. That was my face. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Don't know what to do about that. Lip reading, I guess. So so let's do another practice, and if there are any other questions, this what I wanted to do was this practice of Ashrei, which is I'm gonna call my husband in to help me. Breath milk? Yep. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it appears that when it's not just you by yourself, that the sound goes in and out. Like when there's an instrument, your sound goes in and out, and when your husband comes in, the sound goes in and out. Just letting you know.
Well, we'll try it without the shruti, and see how that works.
What about me?
Yeah, we can use you.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So the story behind this Ashrei practice is that I was invited by a Jewish Futures conference to lead a mincha, and I felt like a little I guess like that I would be a hypocrite to lead mincha when I didn't really have a mincha practice. I have a morning practice, but I didn't have a mincha practice at that time, and so I decided, okay, in the months before I was going to lead this, I would take on a mincha practice for myself. And since a mincha, consists of just Ashrei and Amidah and a Kaddish, there's not much to it. I decided to enter into a study of Ashrei. And the way that a chanter enters in to a prayer is that often I get stopped on the first line and just say, wow, I don't want to go any further than this. This sort of has the whole prayer inside it. And I began to study these words and use them. So what my experience was that as I was living my day, the reason I needed Ashrei was because my day my focus of attention got narrower and narrower through the day until it was about the size of my to-do list. I might start off my day in a moda ani, very expansive place, but by the time I got to the afternoon, I was really just trying to get things done on my list. And I realized that the purpose of the mincha service for me was to open up my perspective and take in a kind of a sense of the cosmos, so that I could, refocus and remember my purpose. So I took these words of Ashrei, and the way that I understood them was, happy is the one that dwell in your house, meaning God consciousness. God consciousness is a place where I have an awareness of the whole and where I fit into that wholeness. And that's really the source of my Ashrei, my happiness is being in that place of God consciousness. And when I am there, oh, Hallelujah, what emerges from me is uncontrollable praise. I just open my mouth, and instead of the usual complaint, what comes out is praise because of the state that I'm in. And I'll say that this practice of chant really has opened me to an awareness of how a state of consciousness is what manufactures my thoughts and my expressions and my presence. But it begins with a particular state. And the phrase that I choose really leads me to a particular state of consciousness. And so I am working with that all the time working with what my state is. So, so as I come to that afternoon kind of slump time, and I chant these words of Ashrei, I am really looking for, how to, have I ever been in that state before? And I call up a memory of it that is guiding me then to the place of Ashrei. I don't know. Oh, I'm watching somebody else's screen. Okay. So so I'm going to ask you to chant this. Oh, there you go. To chant this with me. And there are two parts to the chant, and you can choose which one you're going to chant. The first part says, and so the idea is, as you're doing it as a practice, is that you kind of a memory of that state of what it feels like to feel that wholeness and that connection and that expansiveness. So you're kind of aiming toward that place and using your voice to lift you up into that state of consciousness. So the first part says, Ashrei Yoshvei Ve'itecha Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha Ashrei Yoshvei Ve'itecha Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha. And the second part says, Ashrei Yoshvei Ve'itecha Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha. So we'll do these together, and you can choose whichever one you want to chant with. But what the most important thing is the kavanah, and also in the silence afterwards, we'll just take a couple minutes to notice. Well, what was the power of the chant? Where did it bring you? What shifted from before until after? And we can take a few minutes of reflection afterwards. Ashrei, 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 Ve'itecha Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha.
Ashrei,
Ashrei
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei
Ve'itecha
Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha.
Ashrei,
Ashrei
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei
Ve'itecha
Od Yahalelucha
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
meditative. Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hallelujah.
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei,
meditative.
Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hallelujah.
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei, meditative. Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hallelujah.
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei,
meditative.
Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Once more.
Ashrei,
Ashrei, Yoshvei, meditative. Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hallelujah. So at the end of a chant, I keep my eyes closed for a moment, bring my attention to the breath, and breathe into the heart. Just taking this medicine in, taking the power of the chant in, and then doing a practice of inquiry, of just noticing what's different. How is the feeling inside me different? How the sense of inner spaciousness, outer spaciousness, feelings in my body, everything that I can notice that might be different after the chant than before it really brings me to more of an understanding of what the power of these words are. So, and then I invite you to open your eyes and just notice what the feeling is. And so what we're doing here is we're charging up these words with our own experience. Now, when you come to if you've done that practice for yourself, when you come to them in the liturgy, they'll have a whole different power to them, even if you're not chanting, even if you're just saying those words once. The experience that you invest in it in your own practice, it changes your relationship to the text. And I guess that's what I'm looking to do at the ACC, is really for us as spiritual leaders, as leaders of prayer. What is our relationship to these texts? How do we take them inside us, to take them really personally, to understand their power, to understand, how they can transform us or heal us, so that we can use them more consciously. So any questions that come up around this way of looking at a text, of going deep into it? And I think that if you have a question or a comment, you can just unmute. Nan, is that? Yes.
Hi. I feel like I'm in a very I think I speak for a lot of people, in a very peaceful, quiet place right now. But I'm curious if you could share a bit about your composition process, how you sit and write.
Yeah, it really, thank you. What I do is when I encounter, I begin with a sense of vulnerability inside me, meaning there's something that I need. There's some a quality of a question, or a feeling of vulnerability, a feeling of there's something that I need. And when I come then to the text, there's usually some line that sort of jumps up and says, it says chant me, and it says explore me. There's a power here. Sometimes it's a line that disturbs me or just stirs me. Sometimes it's something I love, and sometimes it's something that is upsetting to me. But what I'll do is I will then go into a process of kind of being in relationship with that line of text. And I think that the melody and the harmony and those things, they come out of my relationship. They come out of the feeling that I have towards that text. And then I play with it. And I might begin by just saying the text and feeling its rhythm. And different melodies emerge, and I will live with it inside me and chant it. Maybe 5 or 6 melodies, of them really clicks and says, oh, this is what unlocks the meaning of this text. And often, if there's a text that I don't really understand, it's only after I chant it for a long time that it becomes clear to me the meaning of it arises. And there are sometimes that a text might have more than one melody, because each melody brings out a different aspect of that text. But it's really the composing really happens out of that space of intimate relationship with the text and curiosity. I'll also, take the words of that and look up every word in both my dictionary and my concordance, and really explore those words and really kind of fall in love. Really, it's a practice of falling in love with that text. And I think the melodies, I might go for a walk, and just play with it, and come upon something. Sometimes it emerges right away, and sometimes I might have to sit with it for a while. And then once that melody appears, I'll take a recorder and I'll record it. And then it is a process whereby it becomes part of me. After, and it's only that when I really know it and begin to feel it's what it does, then I'll feel good enough to teach it to my students. But I call it kind of chanting like it's a lifestyle choice. It feels like this is the way I live my life. And it makes me realize that there are these treasures there that I just need to bring both my attention and also to that sense of vulnerability to it, because I might wake up one day and feel like I have a need, or I'm worried about something, or I'm upset, and I'll look and see, well, what is it that can open me or calm me or lead me to a place of more awareness. So it's kind of an exciting life to know that there's so many, wonderful and powerful tools in that I have inherited. But I think that, the playing part of it is really an important part, and giving myself the space in my life to do that play. I think maybe we have time for one more. I'm not seeing. Oh, here it is. So that I was just finding the chat thing now. So you can ask questions. You can unmute yourself, and the question.
Hi, am I on?
Yeah, yes, you are.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering, what is the process like for introducing this ideal, this concept to communities that are unfamiliar with the chanting? Like getting them into the mind space, especially since your eyes are, not your eyes, but one's eyes are closed for this, and they're used to having eye contact with me and me being out there instead of in there for them and with them.
Well, for me, it's to get together with people who want to do some exploration and know that this is going to be something a little bit different, and getting them to sort of trust, that it, sometimes if you to say this is a form of meditation, of Jewish meditation, that will help you to understand and embody and use these texts that we've inherited. I have a book called The Magic of Hebrew Chant, which really explains the whole kind of that's the part of it, but the book part, has all the theory of chant in it, and different ideas about how to introduce. Sometimes within a healing kind of service is a way to introduce it, because it's a way of focusing the energy of a prayer. I go to lots of different communities and I introduce this, and every time I have to find a different way in. I try to get to know people and think like, okay, meditation or healing, or looking at what music does, but being able to concentrate a little bit and to I feel like this idea of having an inner life is so important. And a chant is a way of introducing that idea as well, because something's happening inside us. And so what I would do might be do a practice, and then afterwards have people check in with each other. What did that feel like? Oh, it really made me relaxed, or it really opened my heart, or it really stirred something in me. And the more that people then respond in that way, the more excited they get about, oh, there's really something here to explore. So to introduce it as an exploration, an adventure, a treasure that is sort of hidden in our tradition, I think there's lots of ways in. But I think the bottom line, it makes the liturgy into something that is, alive and exciting again. And whereas sometimes it could kind of get old. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was there another question? Yeah. So I think our hour is almost up, but I just want to make myself available to you as a resource as you explore this, and hope to get to meet many of you in June. And I think that some of the different workshops that I'm going to be teaching, I think I'm going to be giving a keynote that has to do with the some of the brain research that's being done about how music affects the brain, how spiritual practice really helps us to overcome the negative bias of the brain and open up these new synapses, new pathways for blessing. And I wanted to really bring together the language of neuroscience and the language of spiritual practice together, because it really kind of shows so clearly how effective these practices are in changing us and opening us to blessing. So, and I know that there's a few different workshops that I'm going to be teaching that where we can explore these ideas more. And also to teach some about how meditation and these kind of meditative practices can form a kind of foundation for our life and our religious life, and really, open up the depths of our own relationship with God and with each other. So I'm excited about the possibilities. Often I go to communities where, it's hit or miss whether people can sing or not. So getting to come to the ACC and really being able to go for it musically will be a real treat for me, because and the wonderful thing about chanting is you can have it as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. And so people who either don't know a lot of Hebrew can still enter in because it's a very short phrase and they won't be overwhelmed by it. And also people who are not that musical can also enter in wherever they are, and take it. It's very accessible. While it's accessible, it also a life of deepening of a practice. So I guess I want to thank you. Maybe I'll just end with that Moda Ani that we started with, and I'll mention again that I'm a little bit obsessed with the Moda Ani prayer, and I have an app that you can get on your iPhone called the Flavors of Gratefulness that has 49 different flavors or melodies for this Moda Ani prayer, so that you can wake up every day with a new melody, keep it fresh.
Only if you have iPhones.
Only have iPhones, yeah. So it was great to be with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in June. Madani lefanecha, 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 Madani Rodani lefanecha, Rodani lefanecha,